Before you watch this video, a little disclaimer. It was recorded with a mashup of Photo Booth and QuickTime Screen Recorder. And there was a problem here in that Photo Booth will not reverse its camera. So even though this is my right hand, it looks like my left hand. You'll be able to read the MarimbaLodica user interface very well, but the instrument itself is appearing backwards. I hope that doesn't confuse you. Please watch on and learn about the long and the short of it. I'd like to take a little time to dig deeper and show you exactly how legato and staccato work together and how they're implemented with the MarimbaLodica. So I'm sitting down at the instrument now and showing you a piece of the user interface that we use to configure our legato and staccato when we play the instrument. So there are three kinds of ways to implement a legato. The first is the simplest. It's just a monophonic legato that you get when you play a strictly monophonic instrument, say a flute, where one note starts, and if you're still blowing and you finger another note, the previous note ends and the next one starts right on top of it. You get in a butt, a complete elision of the two notes. And here's what that would sound like. Nice and simple and not much to think about. But if you want to have an adaptive legato where you can change the overlap between the notes, as you can do on a polyphonic instrument as a piano, where you can do the legato with your fingers, as I mentioned in the first video, we can do that with polyphonic flute sound sources. And the issue here then is, how do we control that overlap? Well, the most direct way to do it is to control the overlap with your expression pedal. And that's what I've done here. In the first instance, I can say overlap with the pedal, and over here, with the pedal on the floor, you can see how that overlap time changes. And you can hear that blur. But this requires us to use our foot. What if we wanted to adapt just to the way we play? Well, there's a way to do that. And that's by using the speed of your mallets, which we call the inter-onset interval. So we can look at how fast our mallets are moving, and we can say, let's make the overlap adapt to, say, 35% of that time. So as we play slow, the overlap is big, and as we get faster, the overlap shrinks. And here's what that sounds like. And I can play around with that overlap. That's a pretty short overlap, 35%. Let's run it up to maybe about 63%. And that'll get more blurry. So there's a like set it and forget it legato control. One, you can control the overlap with the pedal, expression pedal, one by how fast you're playing. But there is actually another way to actually implement legato, which is interesting, and that's not to use the overlap, but to use the time of the release of the sample. Okay, and again, here I'm attaching that to the pedal, and this gives you a kind of an interesting reverb kind of effect. I implemented it just so we could play around with it. Depending on the kind of samples you're playing and the kind of music you're playing, you might want to use that. But let's set legato back down here to the kind of set it, forget it overlap, IOI, and talk about staccato for a minute. Well, staccato is interesting. We know when we want to start the note, we whack it with the mallet. But if we want to stop the note, we have to stop breathing, and that doesn't work too well when we want to play a fast staccato passage. So what we can do is we can switch between these two modes by using a foot switch pedal. So when I press pedal 1 here, oops, I'm in staccato mode, now I'm in legato mode. Well, we know how we're going to measure the overlap in legato mode in this case by my speed of my mallets. How do I determine how fast my staccato notes are playing? I want them to stop before I hit the next note. Well, one way to do that, again, is with the IOI, how fast we're playing. And here I'm saying I want the notes to last only 35% of how fast I'm playing. So depending on how fast I'm playing, in staccato mode, push the pedal down, watch this number. You can see it's going to adapt to how fast I'm playing. So we'll start in legato, and we'll switch to staccato with inter-onset interval. That's a pretty sharp staccato, so let's go for more of a percentage. So we're going to fill up more of the gap between our mallets. And that's all on one breath, so we can switch back and forth between those two articulations. And we can even tenuto the staccato notes without switching the mode. If I hold the mallet down while I hit that staccato note, it will defeat the automatic stopping of the note. So watch how this goes. Totally in staccato mode. And now mixing it up. And there you go, mixing back and forth between legato and staccato. But there is another way to control the length of those staccato notes if you don't want it to respond to just the speed of your mallets, and that's to use the pedal. And this time we'll put the staccato length on the pedal so that when I'm pedaling up, sweeping with the pedal, we're getting a real length of the staccato notes. But when I go down with the heel on the pedal, we'll be back in legato mode. And in this case, we'll be using legato with the percentage IOI. So this is a nice way to switch back and forth, changing the overlaps and the lengths of the staccato, overlaps of the legato, lengths of the staccato, all while you're playing. So there you got legato and staccato switching back and forth. And one more effect I should point out is sometimes you want a little accent when you're playing staccato. And we can add that, of course, by blowing, but we can actually make it happen on the stroke by upping this little accent bump plus here. So this is going to be kind of obvious. I'll be playing along, and when I switch into staccato mode, you're going to hear it get louder on the onset of every note. So this is how we can play legato, staccato in different manners, with different kinds of control, with a little extra oomph on staccato overlaps, and this really gives us a lot of articulation possibilities when playing with mallets, with electronic instruments, and the breath all together. And that's the long and the short of it.